Hello my precious little dragons, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having an absolutely beautiful day. Alright, so today is hopefully going to be a little bit shorter of a video. I am going to take you through my June TBR, which coincides with the Queer Lit Readathon, which is run by Jean from the Jean's Bookish Thoughts, who is the one who I followed that sort of introduced me to it. And then there is Kathy Truthart and then Rogan Shannon, and so they all are doing the Queer Lit Readathon. And it is actually technically just a 1 week thing. It is June 6th through 12th. However, I wanted to be able to do all of the challenges. They basically have a bingo board of different prompts, and so you can try to fill as many as possible. You can have one book count for multiple prompts, but I decided to just kind of extend it into my whole month so it's a little bit more flexible, and that works for me. So I'm just going to take you through my TBR and kind of what I'm hoping to get out of it, and yeah. So the first prompt is memoir. So my choice, which you're going to see a couple times, well, I have a couple options. So the way I'm sort of doing this is I'm giving myself options because I'm very much a mood reader and sometimes I just don't feel like reading a book. So I'm giving myself a couple options for a few of these, and then, oh, I forgot to grab a book. One second. Okay, so the first one that we're going to go through is memoir. So I have two options for this. First option is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson.
So mild clown moment. I didn't realize that this is technically a semi-autobiographical novel and not a memoir. You'll still be seeing it for another prompt though.
And this one is going to count for a few prompts, and it's not very long, so I'm definitely hoping to get through this one this month. And obviously it's a physical book I own, so it's nice to get through your physical TBR. Anyway, but this one is a little bit older work, and Jeanette Winterson was adopted into an evangelical household, and that's what she grew up in. And then she sort of talks about religion a lot in this memoir, from what it seems like her experience growing up in evangelical household and then realizing that she was gay. So I'm very interested to read this one. The other one is Officer Clemens by Dr. Francois Clemens, who is best known for playing Officer Clemens on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Rogers has my whole heart and soul. I absolutely adore him with all of my heart, to the point where I can like read stuff about him. Like, I read his Wikipedia page once and just cried because like I feel like he sort of exemplifies what a Christian should be, in my opinion, and he is absolutely just a role model for me in every way, shape, and form, and he's so kind, and so anything that's like Mr. Rogers adjacent, I'm interested in. So, and obviously I grew up watching the show, so Officer Clemens also has a special place in my heart. So I'm really interested in reading this to learn more about him, learn more about his experiences. He was the first African American to have a recurring role on a children's TV program. You know, he broke a lot of barriers, obviously. One of them is on the cover of this book. It is the moment where Mr. Rogers shared a kiddie pool with Officer Clemens, and this was still during the era where, you know, people would throw acid into pools that African Americans were in just because they didn't want integration. And so like this moment was groundbreaking. And from what I've heard, Dr. Clemens has also talked a lot about his experience as a gay man. He was also an accomplished pianist, and so he talked a lot about music and how that really was a point of connection for him. So like I said, I don't know a lot about him, but I know enough like to really respect him and be really, really looking forward to this memoir. So I'm hoping I can get to that one this month. This is the book that I bought my last weekend living in my hometown. So yeah, I've been meaning to get to this one for a while. So next, the group read is Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. I'm looking forward to finally reading an Akwaeke Emezi novel. I have not read any of their novels thus far, so I sort of know what Freshwater is about and sort of don't. Like, I've heard a lot of people say a lot of good things about it, but I can never remember what it's about. Like, I just know people say it's good, so I guess I'll find out. I know part of it takes place in Nigeria and part of it takes place in America when the main character goes to America, I think for school. I won't swear to that. So, should be interesting. Sometimes it's fun to go into a book knowing basically nothing. Next is Hardhitting Contemporary, which I had kind of a hard time with this because, I don't know, sometimes hard-hitting contemporary is not my thing. Like, that's one of those ones I could sort of take it or leave it. I'm just, because usually when I'm in the mood for contemporary, I'm in the mood for something a little lighter. Not always, but like just hard-hitting contemporary doesn't tend to be something that I gravitate towards. So I had a hard time picking this one out and give myself a lot of options just in case I'm really not in the mood for something. So I gave myself a lot of options for this to hopefully block any reading slumps before they occur. My first option is one of my physical books, which is I'll Give You the Sun by Janie Nelson. This one is about two twins, Jude and Noah, and it sounds like this is another one that obviously I own it, but I don't know like too much about it. I had just kind of heard people say it was really good, and I saw it on thrift books for like a really good deal, so I was like, all right, I'll give it, like, I'll get it, and hopefully I'll get to it eventually. So getting to it eventually. So it sounds like from the back, the two twins are very different, and it sounds like in the beginning Noah tells the story, and in the later time Jude tells the story, and then they have to like find their way back to each other after they've been like, you know, kind of drifting apart, not getting along. So it's very much about family, and I really like books about sibling relationships, so I'm hoping I'll really like this. Next, another option I have for Hardhitting Contemporary is Patsy by Nicole Dennis Ben. This one is, according to Goodreads, a novel of what women and girls will sacrifice and deal for in order to 100% fulfill their ambitions. So Patsy is a Jamaican woman, and she gets her visa in order to go to America and wants to go to New York to reunite with her friend Cicely, but she leaves her mother and her daughter True behind when she goes to America, and so I believe it follows both Patsy and True, and I've heard a lot of really good things about this one. I've also heard that it's very like emotional, so I may not be in the mood to read this one. This is what I get for, you know, it's a hard-hitting contemporary, so I should be expecting to be hit hard, but it's also just like, okay. There's that one, and then the last one is Little and Lion by Brandy Colbert. Little and Lion deals with mental health. I tend to really like reading books that deal with mental health because obviously that's my field. So it deals with a girl named Suzette, and she's coming back home to LA, and her stepbrother Lionel is diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and so I don't know if she's bi or if she's lesbian. This one also has Jewish rep, so I've heard a lot of good things about this one as well. I mean, most of the ones on this list I've heard a lot of good things on. If I'm wanting to read it, you can probably bet I've either heard good things about it or it just seems really interesting to me. So this one is both. And so those are my options for hard-hitting contemporary. So we'll see which one I'm actually in the mood to read, or if I maybe happen to get to all of them. We will see. I doubt I will get to all of them. It also partially depends on what's available through my library, like what I need to put a hold on, if my Scribd app is acting up again, because it's been acting up and it's really annoying me. It's fine. Whatever. There's a create your own category, so I kind of did two. So I did one that's not our world, so basically giving me an opportunity to read fantasy this month, and historical fiction, because those are like my two favorite genres and they weren't really represented in the prompts just automatically, so I made it myself. So my options are The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, or A Dark Queen Rises by Ashok Banker, or Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sim. So The Jasmine Throne is a new release, and it's about, I believe it's about two sisters. That's one of my NetGalley reads. A Dark Queen Rises and The Jasmine Throne are both NetGalley reads for me, so I do want to get to those this month because I need to get it done. The Jasmine Throne is the start of a trilogy. It's inspired by the history and epics of India, and it has a captive princess and a maidservant in possession of forbidden magic, and they become unlikely allies to save the empire from the princess's brother. So there's that one. A Dark Queen Rises is the sequel to Upon a Burning Throne, and I had mixed opinions on Upon a Burning Throne. However, after seeing Jessie from Bowties and Books review on A Dark Queen Rises and how much they absolutely adored it and said that A Dark Queen Rises sort of fixed a lot of the issues that I had had with Upon a Burning Throne, I'm like, okay, I can definitely give it a second chance. So I requested it off of NetGalley and it was approved. So I will hopefully be getting to that one this month, and I should be in for a ride with A Dark Queen Rises, because if it's anything in comparison to like the chunkiness of Upon a Burning Throne, it is going to be a long haul. So it may take me a couple weeks to get through that one. Fortunately, it's on audiobook, so I can double the speed and hopefully get through faster, but oh boy, we'll see. And then Scavenge the Stars, I believe is a retelling of the Count of Monte Cristo, but it's also a fantasy. Historical fiction. This is called The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics. It's about a young woman named Lucy who shows up to a widow's house basically to try and complete the translation work of the widow's dead scientist husband, and then they fall in love. So it's a romance novel. So, but it has science and it's a historical fiction. So I'm like, sounds up my alley. So hopefully I will get it read. The other one I have is Coffee Will Make You Black by April Sinclair. So this one takes place on Chicago's South Side in the mid to late 60s. So it's the tale of Jean Stevie Stevenson. And so she's growing up through the civil rights and Black Power movements. And then also Stevie is figuring out her sexuality as well. So it just looked like it would be really interesting. It was just on a list of historical fiction and I was like, ooh, put that on my TBR along with the 500 other books I want to read. So the next one I have is Shorter Than a Novel. So for this one I should be able to get through both of them because again they're shorter than novels and one is a graphic novel. So the first one is The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill and this one is just absolutely freaking adorable and I've been holding off reading it, waiting for the perfect moment. Like, because it's so, I mean, I've obviously flipped through and looked at the arc, but I haven't like had the full reading experience yet. Also, there's a card game, and so I have the card game and I've played it multiple times. But I'm like, it's the Tea Dragon Society. This is like me in a book. This is like, if you want to know my personality, it's this cute artwork, dragon, and tea. This is my personality, me, right here in the screenshot. So this is my first one, and it's about what you think it is. It's about friendship and tea and little dragons. And I mean, I will hold on, I will just show you some of the artwork. Like, look at that, look how cute, right? Look how cute. I can't. The different chapters go by seasons, which the game does too. If you want a cute card game, I would highly recommend that. So that's my first option for Shorter Than a Novel. The second one is Burning Roses by S.L. Huang. And so it's a short novella, which is a retelling of Red Riding Hood, but it is a Chinese retelling. So it's about Antuyi, who are blessed and burdened with stopping the deadly sunbirds from ravaging the countryside. So I'm very interested in this one, and like I said, it's a novella, so I should be able to just get through it really quickly. An absolute sucker for fairy tale retellings. So again, right up my alley. For Brings You Joy, this is our first repeat. Obviously, it's going to be The Tea Dragon Society. I mean, you saw me just now. This brings me joy. The cover brings me joy, so the book will bring me joy. This is, yeah, that's it. The next one is Imspec, which I never heard that term before I was watching the video about this readathon. But Imspec, it means multiple attraction or multisexual spectrum. So this includes like bi, pan, omni, fluid, flexible, pretty much anything on that spectrum. So the one that I was looking at, which is on my TBR, is Nemo's Kiss by Jacqueline Carey. You know me, I have to fit fantasy into pretty much everything. So this one is also the start of a trilogy. It's about a girl named Mirren, and I believe this is based on like Irish, like more Celtic mythology. Yeah, because it's called Alba. It's gotta be. That's what I believe. But Mirren possesses a lot of gifts, and I believe she goes on travels, and it takes place over quite a bit of time. Undergoes the rites of adulthood. She finds divine acceptance on the condition that she fulfill an unknown destiny that lies somewhere beyond the ocean. So it kind of just follows her through her journey, and it has like multiple different romances that she has throughout her life, or throughout her, I don't know how long of a period it takes place over, but when I first heard about it, it made it sound like it was like a decent period of time, which I also thought was interesting for fantasy. For not North America, which I wasn't counting fantasy because I'm like, if it takes place in another world, it's obviously not North America, but I had a feeling they meant just the North American continent, or sorry, the actual prompt is not my continent, so whatever continent that you're on, not that. So I was going to say Freshwater because it's partially in Nigeria and partially in America. I wasn't sure if it counted. But for the purposes of this and not totally overwhelming myself with the amount of things I have to read, I'm going to say Freshwater because it at least half counts. Which, I mean, a couple of the other ones count as well, but like when this is not my continent, I also try and not do Europe too because I feel like it's kind of cheating. It's not, but I feel like it is. So like the ones that take place in like London or whatever, I'm like, I'm trying to do something else. Okay, so intersectional, Freshwater definitely counts for that one. Or I also wanted to potentially do Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Downforth, and Little and Lion would also fall into that one. Vintage, which means more than 20 years ago, which it made me really sad to realize that that means just written before 2001, or not sad, that's not the right term, but it just took me aback, because when I think vintage, I think, oh, like a book from like the 1950s or something. No, before 2001. This is vintage. Okay. So the one I'm doing for that is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. I believe it was, yeah, Oranges was published in 1985, so it is very vintage. It's almost 40 years old. So that one will definitely count for that prompt. Summer vibes. So I said the Tea Dragon Society again, not only because it's just bright and happy and colorful and also a quick read, but because, like I said, the chapters are also in seasons. So it's literally summer vibes, but also spring and fall and winter, but literally summer vibes. For superheroes, I just didn't feel like reading a superhero novel this month, so instead I got a superhero graphic novel, and I'm going to be reading the Young Avengers because America Chavez was the first lesbian, or the first official lesbian, I should say, in the Marvel Universe from what I've seen, from what I've read. So I thought reading the Young Avengers, and I've seen so much about it and heard so many good things, and I was like it's been one of those things I've been wanting to read for a while, and it just looks like a lot of fun. Like, oh heck yeah, I want to read Young Avengers eventually, and so now is eventually. And so I ordered the omnibus from the library, and it came in literally 2 days ago, so I do have to read this one pretty quickly so I can turn it back into the library. Originally I was just looking for the first one, and it's like, well, we have the omnibus, and I was like, alright, works for me. So ta-da! Almost done. So with Underrepresented Identity, I think they basically just said that's pretty much anything. They said it's pretty much anything that you don't see as often. So like, just not like, it's just said you could have bi or pan. So it kind of seems like it crosses over with the Imspec a lot. I think Ace would also fit on there pretty well. But the one that I went for was saying The Antidote for Everything by Kimmery Martin, which has trans rep. Oh, I need to get the physical copy of the library. Dang it, I was just there. I should have remembered that was on my list. But anyway, The Antidote for Everything I heard about through Jessie, and so I was really excited when they talked about it because it centers around 2 doctors, and I absolutely love medical science-y books. So I am really excited about that one, and I believe the doctor is gay, but it surrounds like the doctor fighting for trans rights in healthcare, because he was told he wasn't going to be able to treat the trans patients anymore, if I remember correctly, and then he and his friend are fighting for their patients. So for religious, I'm going to again go for Oranges, as I mentioned before, because that talks about her upbringing in an evangelical household, so that one will count for that. And then lastly, for recommended, this just means someone recommended the book to you. So I could go with Scavenge the Stars, because actually it was recommended by BuzzFeed, because I believe it was like a quiz, and it was like, what book is best for you based on how you answer these random questions, and it told me Scavenge the Stars. So that one's like, it's literally on my TBR list as BuzzFeed recommended, so I mean, it counts, right? And then the other one that could count for this is A Dark Queen Rises, because I probably wasn't going to read it, except that Jessie recommended it so highly. So I mean, that also counts, because Jessie is the reason I am picking it up again. So thanks, Jessie. So yeah, that is all of the prompts. So I am hopefully going to be able to get through most of them. It does make me feel better that there's a lot of shorter stuff on the list, so I should be able to get through it a little bit better, which is good because I'm doing summer classes and starting work up again, so my time is going to be more limited than it was last month. So yeah, I guess we'll see. But anyway, that's all I have for now. So I would love to know what you're reading for this month, or if you're participating in the Queer Lit Readathon, either just for that week or kind of extending reading LGBTQ+ literature through the entire month of June. If you're part of the LGBT community, I hope you have an amazing Pride Month. I hope that you feel loved and accepted and just have a very wholesome month. I think the summer is going to be awesome, especially as the world opens back up and things look a little brighter. I'm excited for the summer. It'll be a good one. By the way, I meant cake. you so much for joining me. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful rest of your day. Stay magic, keep reading, and I love you all so much. Goodbye!